Hey! Now you will see the best and most objective comparison of 3 Tier 10 heavy tanks, with high damage per shot. These are the Soviet Mastodon Object 705, the Polish Big Guy 60 TP, and the German Baby E100. These tanks are similar. They have almost identical guns, and they have similar gameplay. Therefore, many are interested in which tank to choose. And now we will look at their advantages and disadvantages, and determine which one is the best. The comparison will be on 3 main characteristics: firepower, mobility and survivability. Each tank in each category will be rated from 1 points to 3 points. So, here we go. Let's begin by the German Baby E100. Of the 3, this is the oldest tank in the game. Earlier, only the top gun was playable. But now the stock gun has been upped, and now you can alternate guns to suit your gameplay. But this video will look at the gameplay on the top gun, because currently it's more comfortable, thanks to the higher damage per shot. So, let's look at the gun of the E100. Damage per shot is 750. Reload time is about 16.5 seconds. Damage per minute is about 2,700. What is there to say? It's quite balanced. Okay, now let's look at the accuracy values. In my build, dispersion is 0.38, aiming time is about 2.5 seconds, more or less good stabilization for such a big gun. I use the improved hardening, the vertical stabilizer and the gun rammer. And I don't use the chocolate. I can recommend this build. Also, to avoid repetition, Object 705A and 60 TP will have the same build. As for the E100 gun, it's not bad, nothing more. The penetration of the basic shell is 246mm, and the premium shell is 334mm. Also, important to mention, that E100 a very big tank. And, often, you shoot the enemy from the top down, which makes it much easier to penetrate. This is a huge positive of the E100. Very important to mention that the velocity of the shells is only 757 to basic shell, and 606 to premium shell. It's awfully bad. It's very hard to shoot at long distances. Looking ahead, Object 705A and 60 TP are doing better. So, in general, E100 has a pretty good gun. Now let's talk about the gun of the Object 705A. Damage per shot is 650, which is 100 less than the E100 and 60 TP. While, reload time is 15 seconds. Damage per minute is 2,550. These are the worst values among the subjects of today's video. As for the accuracy, there is nothing outstanding here either. Dispersion is 0.41. Aiming time is 2.6 seconds. Medium stabilization. Seemingly, this gun has so many flaws, that at least the armor penetration should be good. But here, too, the Object 705A is out of luck. The armor penetration of the basic shell is 256mm, which is not bad. But the armor penetration of the premium shell is only 317mm. This can often be not enough. Yes, the gun is not the main thing of this tank. Now let's talk about the gun of the 60 TP. The damage per shot here is the same as the E100, which is 750. The reload time is about 16 seconds. Damage per minute at these values is about 2,800. It's serious. Dispersion is 0.38. The aiming time is 2.8 seconds. Not bad stabilization. It's a really amazing gun. Perhaps the only disadvantage is the low armor penetration on the premium shell. It's only 317mm. But the pretty good accuracy a little compensates for this disadvantage. Thus, in the category of firepower, E100 gets 2 points, Object 705A gets 1 point, and 60 TP gets 3 points. Well, let's move on. Mobility. In this category we will not stay long, because mobility is not the main thing of these tanks. E100 has engine with a specific power of 9.2 horsepower per ton. At the same time, the maximum forward speed is only 30 km per hour. Yeah, it's a real slowpoke. The Object 705A is much better at mobility. Specific engine power is almost 15 horsepower per ton. Maximum forward speed of 40 km per hour. It's good. Also, I highly recommend that you watch the video at the link above. In 3 minutes, you'll learn how to increase your skill. Okay, let's move on. Now about the 60 TP. This Polish big guy surprisingly has worse mobility than the Object 705A. However, it is still more mobile than the E100. The specific engine power is almost 13 horsepower per ton. The maximum forward speed is 35 kilometers per hour. And also important to mention that all three tanks have a good reverse speed, 14 to 15 kilometers per hour, as well the same all-terrain travel capability of the tracks. By the way, correct me in the comments if I made a mistake in this phrase. Okay. In the mobility category, the E100 gets 1 point, the Object 705A gets 3 points, and the 60TP gets 2 points. Well, let's move to survivability. We will not go into detail about the values of the armor, since it would be boring and uninformative. Instead, I will briefly describe armor of the each tank, and how it works in a battle. And again, let's begin with the E100. At first glance this tank has pretty mediocre armor. In fact, it is. If you have an enemy playing against you with premium shells with a penetration of 320 or more, he will have no problem from penetrate your turret. Needless to say, the bottom section of the front of the hull can be penetrated by everyone. But, all is not as sad as it may seem at first glance. You just need to be able to use his armor. When the enemy aims at your turret, turn it to the side. In this case, it becomes problematic to penetrate the E100 turret. If you look at the armor in general, the sides of the hull, the front of the hull, it's not bad. Now about the armor of the Object 705A. Excellent armor of the hull and turret. And rear turret layout. This allows effective use of side armor, playing from building. The only vulnerable area is the bottom section of the hull. Though sometimes you can be penetrated by premium shells into the turret as well. Also, when the enemy drives up close to you, he will have no trouble to penetrate your top selection of the hull on premium shells, since the angle of penetration of the shell will be very good. As for the armor of the 60TP, it's ambiguously. In general, the armor is awesome. Except for the vulnerable areas. There are 3 vulnerable areas where this tank is penetrated by absolutely all enemies. It will make clearer if I show you them visually. In general terms, this tank has random armor. Sometimes you cannot be penetrated at all. Sometimes you can be penetrated by every shot, depending on your luck and whether enemies will hit vulnerable areas. Thus, in the category of survivability all 3 tanks get 3 points each. But how is that? You ask. That's because one of the main things these tanks is the armor. And they all have very good armor. It would be wrong to single out any one of them. Okay. As a result, we have this table. E100 has 6 points. Object 705A has 7 points. And 60TP has 8 points. In conclusion, for each tank, I want to say, the 60TP I recommend to buy for absolutely all players. You will love it. Object 705A should only be purchased by fans of this kind of gameplay. As for the baby E100, I do not recommend to buy it. Well, I hope this video was helpful to you. And it's time for me to leave. Good luck to everyone, and remember, enjoy the game.